Certainly tough on crime, tough on the blame for crime, maybe we can paraphrase that. In terms of reacting to what we heard in the Casey report yesterday, an easy line of attack, but Sunak coming back, the Prime Minister coming back basically with lots of statistics that may confuse people to a degree.
Well, I don't think it will confuse people in terms of the reality that they're seeing on the streets, and I think that's one of the problems that Rishi Sunak has, is that whatever he says in Parliament, people see the reality. They see 1.6% of rape cases leading to charge. They see that the number of people who've been burgled, half as many are being charged. They see on their streets a smaller police presence. We know there was a 20,000 reduction in police over the first few years, and the police are still attempting to bring those back. So I think the problem that Rishi Sunak has is that the reality that people experience bears no relationship to what he's saying on there, and that's why I think it was quite powerful, sort of cheeky if you like, for Keir Starmer to say ought to get out of Westminster, but it was powerful because people listen to Rishi Sunak and they think he just hasn't got a clue what we're experiencing. Right,
and Sir Lindsay Hoyle did acknowledge there's some quite good one-liners today, but of course the Prime Minister coming back with I'm in North Yorkshire while you're in North London.
I'm a member of the Home Affairs and Justice Select Committee in Parliament. I was a criminal defence solicitor for 17 years. What Keir Starmer should be ashamed of is his role as DPP during...
Director of Public Prosecutions.
Director of Public Prosecutions. He did nothing, the barefaced cheek of him, he did nothing to confront the culture that the Casey review has highlighted
within
in police
the Met
forces throughout the country. His 2011 charging direction regarding rape cases, in my view, is directly responsible for where we are now. He had a catalogue of disasters as the DPP. His hypocrisy is staggering. I mean, I could accept it if he was doing something else, you know, if he was talking about something else, but his record on this is absolutely appalling. And the damage that he did as the DPP to some of the underlying tenets of the Crown Prosecution Service and how victims were protected and approached is something that he should be ashamed of, and he should be apologising before the House for that.
So his assertion that burglars and rapists walk the streets with impunity, you would put that maybe that's partially to do with his tenure at the DPP.
He was talking about serious sexual offending at the start of this. Yeah. I fully accept, if anybody wants to see my contributions to Parliament, the charge-out rates for offending at this moment in time are not acceptable. They simply are not acceptable. We can't have a system where you've got a 2% charge-out rate for rape allegations. There are some fundamental problems in the system. But when Keir Starmer talks about let's have rape and serious sexual offending units, why didn't he do that when he was DPP? Why didn't he put in place those processes that he's now claiming that we need?
Right.
Why didn't he call for mandatory screening of police officers back when he was DPP working with them? The reason is he's an ultimate hypocrite. He will say anything, literally anything.
But why would the Tories not accept that there needs to be a national structure in terms of how police recruits are vetted? I mean, surely that's common sense.
Well, it is obviously common sense in terms of the vetting procedure.
So why is it not there?
Well,
you know, you've had 13 years to put it in place.
One of the things, when you look at the Metropolitan Police, the Metropolitan Police, and where I'm an MP, the Greater Manchester Police, both Labour Police and Crime Commissioners, utterly disastrous. In Greater Manchester, we were put into special measures because of Andy Burnham's negligence. The same thing with Sadiq Khan. They have a record of complete disaster in not protecting victims, and then come on the TV and in Parliament saying things like this.
Yeah, and Rishi Sunak did come back at Keir Starmer with this line from the Casey report about the Mayor of London, that the relationship between the Met and the Mayor was dysfunctional.
Well, I mean, it's very interesting because...
The Labour Mayor, we should add.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I refute completely what James just said about Keir Starmer's record at DPP to sort of try and suggest, well, when he was at DPP, he ought to run the police as well. Utter nonsense. And what it really powerfully shows is that this government at every turn will try and, despite 13 years in power, try and turn the blame on someone else. And that's, of course, what they're doing with Sadiq Khan. I remember when Sadiq Khan asked Dame Cressida Dick to move on. We had various voices on the right demanding that he didn't... yeah, absolutely, demanding that he didn't do that. And now I think he's been absolutely validated in that. And I think that the Casey report is a serious one. It also made clear that austerity and the policing cuts were responsible for many of these failings. So the government have to take responsibility after 13 years for the fact that people are less safe in their beds than they were.
Yeah, and clearly the indication from the fire from both sides is that this is a touchstone policy for a general election.
I completely understand that. But do you know who else needs to take responsibility? Those people over the last 15, 20 years who've been in senior positions within the criminal justice system who completely don't accept. Keir Starmer was Director of Public Prosecutions. His role in where we are today is he's completely culpable from that. He changed the system.
Why did Rishi Sunak not come back at him with that particular sort of line of defence? I mean, going on, obviously, the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, we can understand why, because there's specific allegations concerning the Met. But if this is actually so important, surely that's something that Rishi Sunak should have been prepared to do, and he should have been briefed to do that.
In terms of the people who briefed him, well, unfortunately, I'm not in the room in respect of that. All I can give you, Mark, is my real-life experience of actually being in the courts and dealing with people who had these experiences. Okay. And the hypocrisy of the man is startling.
Right. Just on one particular line, which, again, taking in Lindsay Hoyle's some good lines, so Keir Starmer saying the only investigation the Prime Minister has been involved in ended with him being fined over Partygate. A bit below the belt?
Well, listen, this is Keir Starmer. Nothing is off the table, is it? Below the belt, no problem whatsoever. This is the man...
That's PMQs, though, isn't it? You trade blows.
Well, if that's the way that he wants to debate things, that's a matter for him, but perhaps that shows the type of individual that he is, that he's going to say things like that. Just remember, Mark, this is the man who has his own pension pot, a bespoke pension pot just for Keir Starmer. So he sent Toby and other Labour MPs to vote against a tax policy... Just
to explain to people, when he was at DPP, his pension position meant that he was not under the lifetime limit. It was a different structure. Although one reflects that MPs actually themselves have got quite a nice little pension set up.
So he benefits from a scheme that he wouldn't allow senior doctors and other workers to have. Right. When we're talking about hypocrisy, the charge sheet against him is endless.
OK. Just one last thought. Quite an effective weapon, if you like, from Sir Keir Starmer on the Armthorpe cul-de-sac in Yorkshire, where he specifically honed in on their experiences. One expects maybe that politicians of both sides are going to be beating a path to there to actually find out what's going on, because clearly that's going to be the battleground, one of the battlegrounds for a general election.
Yeah, it is. I think we've also seen Keir Starmer's absolutely confident on taking on the Tories on crime. Yeah, it was historically seen as a Conservative strength. It absolutely isn't now. Yeah. I think Keir Starmer's track record, I think a lot of what James is saying, none of that's what Tory Prime Ministers were saying when Keir Starmer stood down as Director of Public Prosecutions. They were hugely complimentary about him. Now that he's the leader of the Labour Party, of course, they're changing their tune on all of that.
And you might expect that.
Well, it would, but the point is, there was no sort of desire to get rid of him at that time.
Okay.
It's only afterwards. But no, I think you're right. I think Keir Starmer's made it clear today what one of the battlegrounds for the next general election will be, and it's one we're very confident of fighting on.